Becca, it's great to have you on the show. Thank you very much. I know you take a keen interest in this kind of stuff, as indeed do I. I'll just emphasise again, before we launch ourselves into this discussion, that, of course, any kind of violence and lawlessness, etc., is completely wrong. But is it a massive surprise to you that situations like the one at the Knowsley Hotel have occurred?
Absolutely not at all. And for some of the more liberal commentators to blame the government, I also think is unfair, because it is a wider problem, and it really does merit repeating many times over that the poorest people in society are always expected to pick up the greatest burden when it comes to migration. There is nothing wrong with migration. People in Britain do not object to migration, but it is the rate of change that is the problem. And because the government has not been able to address, post-Brexit, the return of illegal migrants, we're getting there, but because they so far haven't been able to do it, people in places like Liverpool, and it's not the only place, and there will be more riots, I predict, people are getting fed up because they're not being listened to.
Just talk to me a bit about that, Rebecca. Sorry to cut in here, but I think it's a really important point that you're making, which is people are not, in my view anyway, against immigration at all. It's the mismanagement of it, I think, that really gets to people, and it's the haphazard nature. And as you've said, I think if people feel threatened, and if people feel as though things are potentially negative and they feel unsafe, then of course it can become a very, very volatile situation. I'm not excusing any of the behaviour that went on, but I think plenty of people, in my view, Rebecca, in the media, are completely burying their heads in the sand and just going, oh, isn't this an outrage, without actually looking at why sometimes this stuff happens. And you said that, in your view, you think that maybe stuff like this is going to keep happening. I mean, that should be a very, very concerning warning for our government, that they've got to sort this out.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're probably aware that I was very much an activist for the grooming scandal that happened in Rotherham, Oldham, Telford. I had quite a few clients, girls, who were from those areas. And the problem with that was that when you started to raise the flag, you got shot down as being a racist. And I'm talking about, you know, in the early days of being activist about what was going on, people shoot you down in flames, and the people who shoot you down in flames tend to be from the upper middle class, you know, the media elite types. And I know I don't include you in that, right, Patrick, and I don't include GB News in that. But, you know, you get shot down as a racist and you get silenced. And then eventually, when the truth actually does come out, it turns out you were right all along. Now, the problem is narratives develop. So, for example, this has been characterised as a extreme right-wing problem, as though Liverpool suddenly, even though it's a Labour council, Labour MP, suddenly it's extreme far-right problem. What your viewers don't realise, perhaps, is that the Communist Party of Great Britain put out a tweet 3 days before the protest which sparked this riot, and the tweet said, calling all anti-fascists, so that would include you and me, calling all anti-fascists to go to Liverpool to fight fascism. Now, that's the Communist Party is basically organising their own counter protest. So nobody mentions that the far left wing have also contributed to the problem.